Welcome back to the Church Shack. I'm going to share, this is an episode of Color and Emotion. I don't know what number it is, but I'm going to share 2 more books that I read in the past few years as the Lord has been processing me into an artist. And if you are new, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Rebecca. I'm a singer-songwriter. I love the Lord. Amen. And I refer to myself as an emotional big wave surfer because as I have been journeying with the Lord, He has made me wholehearted. And so what that has required is for me to deal with emotion and color because I'm someone that was like super like nerdy. Like I'm type A. I've been doing this all day, trying to knock some stuff out. Anyway, I like structure and I like rules and I like when things are black and white, but the Lord is making me wild and I love it. So here we are. Today I'm going to be talking about make your own rules. Oh, what a great segue. And I'm also going to be talking about, well, I'll do one thing at a time, amen? Before I get to this, I'm going to share a couple of thoughts that I was having when I was walking with the Lord. I walk with the Lord. Right now I have the great privilege of flexibility in some ways, and so I can take long walks with the Lord outside, which I love to do. If you're able to do that, I recommend it. Like literally walk with God. It will change your life. So I was walking with the Lord, and actually I was having some conversation with him about these dreams that I had, because I was having dreams and I kept having this like recurring dream. Well, it wasn't even a recurring dream. It was like the same thing happening in a lot of different scenarios. And so I was like, this is very strange. And I would wake up and write it down and sit with the Lord, but I didn't feel like I understood what was going on. But I have learned to just do that anyway, because later it kind of makes sense. What's that verse in John? It's like, right now you don't know what I'm doing, but later you will understand. Well, it got to the point where it was like a dream where like this person had a weird thing with their right eye, and then another person had a weird thing with their right eye. And then I saw a video and this girl was like, yeah, my right eye is swollen. I don't know what's wrong with it. And then I had a dream, and in the dream, everything seemed normal. And then I looked in a mirror, and then my eye was like jacked up. And I was like, what? But I didn't feel pain. I thought I was seeing everything normally. But when I looked in a mirror, I saw that the condition of my eye was a mess. So I was like praying about it. And then as I had this thought like that maybe it has to do with like my perception of myself. And it had to have been the Lord, because it was like 5 o'clock in the morning and I would have just come up with that. And then as I had that thought, I looked over and I saw the painting that I have shared on this channel on episode 70 that I made, and I noticed it was the right eye that was like all jacked up. And I was like, oh, no. And then I ended up getting rid of it because as I was processing it, I feel like the Lord is like, your perception of yourself is janky and I need to correct it. And I realized that like I couldn't even pretend like I didn't identify with that, because that's literally what I said when I shared that painting. So I'm like, okay, I need to get rid of this because I need the Lord. And this actually is an example. In the last episode, I was talking about how like the Lord will prune stuff that you might be attached to, and you just got to go with it. So I got rid of that painting. And then I found pictures of myself that I feel like the Lord was like, this is how I would like for you to see yourself. And so we're rolling with that. Anyway, I was still continuing to process that dream and like my self-perception with the Lord. And there were some interesting thoughts that the Lord kind of helped me work through. And it had to do with like not only perceiving yourself a certain way, but perceiving cities a certain way. Like there's a certain city that I was thinking about, and when I went there, I remember it was like interesting, but I was like, I feel like I could never live here. Like I feel like I don't belong here. But part of that was how I was perceiving myself, which the Lord was like correcting that. But then also he was helping me realize that like cities can perceive themselves incorrectly as well. Like God is very intentional. And even though the world is definitely ending and the country is clearly collapsing, at the end of the day, like all of it's going to burn. You know what I'm saying? That's why you need to be on the Lord's side. Amen. But God is still at work, and there are still people that he wants to bring into his kingdom, and he still has purposes in different cities. And it's like a city might have a reputation for being a certain way, but that could just be out of alignment with what God says about that city. And it was interesting because I felt like the Lord was showing me his heart for this particular place. And that even though I initially perceived that place a certain way and I perceived myself a certain way, and I'm like, incompatibility, it was like the Lord was like, don't make that assumption, because if I say this about you and I say this about this place, then it could actually be a belonging that you didn't initially perceive. So just wanted to share that because I thought it was cool and something that came to mind literally as soon as I sat down to talk about this book. But also because I'm kind of winging it. I really didn't spend very much time going back through this because I remembered the main thing that I got from it. But along that idea of perception, one thing that I do... Oh, sorry. What is the book? The book is Make Your Own Rules. It's by OG YouTuber Andrew Huang. And I honestly don't know how I saw it because I had not heard of him until I saw this, even though he's been on YouTube for like 20 years, like, apparently. But so if you have questions about him, you probably could find out by Googling his name or reading the book yourself. I'm not really going to go into his whole deal. But it was interesting to me because what I did notice was that the people that he was around perceived him in a way that gave him the freedom to become more of who he was. And like, I think he tells a story about how his mom saw something about YouTube on the news and told him like, hey, you should try that. It looks like something you would like, which is very different than how a lot of people are raised, right? And so it helped me have a little bit more grace and patience with myself in my process, because just recognizing the environment that I did come from and what people who love you think is helpful based on their perception, which is not always correct, right? And so it's like sometimes people might discourage you from doing something that you should actually pursue because they don't want to see you fail and get hurt or whatever, but that doesn't make them right. You know what I mean? Even if you love them, even if it's somebody that generally you should or used to submit to or whatever, like you really have to be honest with yourself and talk to the Lord about it. And as you become a whole entire adult, there may be things that you just have to pursue regardless of what anybody else thinks about it. So again, though, what was helpful was like recognizing that this is another reason why it's not a good idea to compare yourself to other people, because we're not all coming from the same place with the same resources. We have different things to overcome. And that was a good reminder. The main thing, though, that I got out of this book was an encouragement to identify what my goals were and how I wanted to be more intentional with my channel. And so I just kind of like was able to read some of his pointers. I guess I can give you, I remember seeing that he gave an overview of how he structured the book, so I thought I could share that at least. Okay, yeah, so he says, this book is divided into 4 parts. Each details my story and the lessons it taught me, and each contains prompts and assignments to encourage the application of those lessons in your own creative life. So part 1 is about becoming an artist or nurturing the artist you already are. I discuss finding your voice and your workflow. What are your interests and values? How can you encourage growth and productivity in your creative life? And so part 2 deals with making public-facing work. Part 3 is concerned with money. And he goes into a lot of detail about what revenue streams in a creative occupation can look like. And then part 4 is about authenticity and how the process is just as important as its outcomes. And that is something that's like, I've heard that so much, but the more I walk with God, the more I see that that's true. Like, God is concerned with the process. And so you can't bypass that if you want to walk in step with him. But the main thing for me was like part 1. What are your interests and your values, and how can you encourage growth and productivity in your creative life? And one thing about me, I don't love self-promotion. I just don't. And because the production quality on my music has not been up to my own par, it has made me hesitant to really even be like, look, I made a thing. It's like I make it because I have to, and I felt like I needed to just do some things. Hopefully moving forward, I can find ways that are just, hopefully the production quality will continue to get better is what I'm trying to say. But where it is right now has impacted the confidence with which I do or do not share my music. I think it's good music. Like, the songs are good, but I can understand why somebody might not want to listen to it based on the quality. Anyway, the main thing Well, to that, I will add that I also have developed an appreciation for where my music has been, even with the audio quality, because there is something restful about just acoustic music, which even though it's not my personal jam, like I'm not just out here curating other acoustic artists, like I can appreciate, sorry, somebody's texting me. Okay. I can appreciate that I did the best that I could, but also like I started to think about some of the music that I like that isn't actually produced very well at all. But I still really like it, and those elements are like endearing to me. So it's like I'm not making it for me, so I don't have to be fixated on like what I hear that I don't like, because somebody else might like it. Similar with other people's personalities, which again is why we don't compare and why it's not your job to fix people, because maybe the thing that you don't like about them is something that God will use in other ways that you don't see coming. So what I learned from reading Andrew's book was that I realized that I'm not really interested in getting people to engage with me and my content more by way of like numbers and chasing trends and trying to get people to click on the next thing. Because my personal value and perspective is that attention is a finite resource. And I feel very aware of the volume of the world. As an introvert, as somebody who likes peace and simplicity and harmony, the world can feel like a circus, and I don't want to participate in that. I don't want to compete with God for other people's attention. That being said, we do need each other, and if you're in a season where you don't have like a lot of friends, or maybe you just need like supplemental mental stimulation or intellectual whatever, like I appreciate, like there's certain podcasts, not really. I listen to sermons more so than podcasts. I think the only other podcast I listen to is like Nate and Koa's surfing podcast. But when you just have it on and you like follow somebody for a while, it can feel like you're just like listening to your friends have a conversation. Like Nate and Koa are these two surfers from the North Shore, and they've known each other forever. They've been surfing forever. And so it's like fun to be privy to those aspects of their personalities, but also their friendship and just the interesting stories and stuff that they share, and even just like sharing about like the technique of surfing and the industry and all that kind of stuff. So it's like that inspires me, because I am like, you know, I'm passionate about discipleship. So if people are drawn to my channel and they are reminded to seek the Lord, then that's what makes me most excited. And that also is why I share that, like, I want people to watch my content and then log off. Not because, you know, there's like two different kinds of that. There's like, you see some wild debauchery and you're like, I'm going to log off. Like, not that way. I more so mean like that I want people to be inspired to spend time with the Lord. And so what that means is that they're not going to click on my next video. I want you to get off the internet and go sit with the Lord. So I was able to find that out, though, by taking some time to read Andrew's book and learn from his story, and recognize that even though his strategies and in his values in some ways seemed opposite mine, it was able to help me. It helped me be able to at least identify what my values and my strategy are, rather than just be like super random. So I just wanted to share that. And then as an honorary mention, and for similar reasons, Kinfolk Entrepreneur. I mostly bought this because it was only $13 and I love a good chunky deal. But I also felt like I should read it. And it basically just goes over the profiles of different entrepreneurs. It's interesting because it's set up in a way where it's like, first it looks at solo entrepreneurs, then it looks at duos and partnerships, and then it looks at people who are building communities. And so it's interesting to just see like what people are making, what people are passionate about, and how they're going about it. And it was helpful for me to like, I guess another way of the Lord giving me permission to see myself the way that he sees me, and to recognize that the world is really big and he is really wild. And as much as I love boxes, I don't have to always be trying to find a box to put myself in. I can just be alive. Amen? So that is what I wanted to share. And I think there may be some other books, but I don't know off the top of my head. So I don't know. But I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, and I'll be back to sing or chat to you soon. Take care.